morning. Welcome to the East San Joaquin Water Quality Coalition member meetings for 2026. We're going to go ahead and just go about East San Joaquin and what we're doing for you, some of your requirements. We'll go into the member dues and a little bit into our surface water and groundwater results for the year. ESJ is a 501c5, so we're a nonprofit company that works just on behalf of our growers to make compliance with the irrigated lands regulatory program as easy and efficient as possible. The ESJ Board of Directors is made entirely up of growers from Merced, Madera, and Stanislaus County that work to represent you. And to keep costs as low as possible, East San Joaquin team is built up of a kind of group of different companies like Farm Bureau from Stanislaus County and Merced County, MLJ, and a legal associate. So a little bit of history. In 2003, the State Water Board created the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program, which is kind of the governing guidance that we have to comply with. In 2004, the East San Joaquin formed here in the Central Valley. And again, we cover Stanislaus, Merced, Madera, and also Tuolumne and Mariposa counties. Initially, our general order, kind of our governing document, was just around surface water, and later in 2012 expanded to include groundwater. So many of you in the room were probably included in that 2012 to 2015. Members joined without back dues. 2013, again, we're going back to the first year of requirements. In 2018, we had some updates to our general order, that governing document, and that was kind of the last time that your requirements changed. So everything has looked relatively similar since about 2018. Your East San Joaquin Board of Directors, again, it's entirely made up of growers from those three counties. You do have several board members here today. I saw John Mendonca and also David Brush are here, but your board of directors does a really good job at working to keep those costs as low as possible, pushing back where we can on state regulation, and really doing a best job to serve our growers here in the three counties. Again, a little bit more about your consultant team. So I'm Katie Beamel. I'm here at the Stanislaus County Farm Bureau. Abby is up front, also Cassandra. We all work in the Farm Bureau offices. So if you ever need help, swing into your county Farm Bureau. We can help you fill out that paperwork and get this done as fast as possible. We also partner with MLJ Environmental to be our technical consultants. They do our sampling and report writing. And then we have a legal representative, Tess Denham, who goes to bat for you on kind of high-level issues and, it works really hard on a lot of our state regulation pieces. A little bit about why your membership is valuable. There's two ways to comply with the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program. The first is to be an individual permit holder with the water board, so your information would go straight to the state. They estimate that's about 25 times more expensive than being a water coalition member. So with that, most people choose to be a water coalition member because it's a lot more cost effective. And the biggest possible benefit to being a water coalition member is that anonymous reporting. So your data is your data. It does not go on with your name to the state, which has definitely been our biggest win and fighting point over the last 20 years. And lastly, you have a great team here in the Heroes, in MLJ, and in your legal representatives to represent you and help you with your paperwork. So how to complete your requirements? You'll know. You probably received your packet in late November, early December this year. They come in kind of bright colored envelopes every year. Or you have selected to get your requirements online and you go onto the member portal and complete your requirements. Both are available now, and if you did not get your packet, see us up front. We can get a new one emailed or sent over to you, so that way you have plenty of time before the March 1st deadline. Your requirements as an East San Joaquin member, there's a few of them. These are all due on March 1st every year. So you attend your member yearly meeting, which you can do here in person or you can do online. We have a participation agreement that's due every couple of years. It gets updated. It hasn't been updated. It hasn't changed in a while, so it's probably already completed. But if you go onto your portal and it's required, make sure you sign your participation agreement. We have member dues. This year, we have our 1 and 5 year survey, the Farm Evaluation Survey, due on March 1st. Your Irrigation and Nitrogen Management Plan Summary Report is due on March 1st. Your worksheet is the one that stays on farm. And then we have a couple of other requirements we'll talk about as we get a little further down. We're going to jump right into the dues breakdown here. So you will have noticed that your member dues are a little bit higher this year. East San Joaquin, for the first time in 5 years, increased dues from $5.50 an acre to $6 an acre. A couple things we like to point out here and kind of our dues breakdown is 25% of that amount that you pay to us, that $6, goes right onto the state water board. So we pay 25% of all the dues we collect right up to the water board. And our highest other category, about 45% of the dues are going to our surface water program. And we continue to have pyrethroid exceedances in the waterway. These are extremely costly. The tests that we have to do to get these numbers and exceedances identified, again, very costly. So of that 45%, about 70% of that is purely analytical cost. And a lot of that is stemming from these surface water exceedances that we're seeing in pyrethroids. So just something to be aware of, and especially if you're somewhere near any sort of canal, stream, waterway whatsoever, tiny amounts are making their way into the waterway, and this is making a big cost difference for you. And if we can start getting these down, that will mean lower dues. The other portion of your member dues, of course, is this nitrate control program fee. And I'm going to have Jen go to the next slide for me. The nitrate control program came out of the Central Valley CV Salts program, which is a salinity program that all dischargers in the Central Valley have to belong to. Their goal, their mission is to work on salinity issues here in the Central Valley. As you'll note, nitrate is a salt. It's been a hot button issue in water quality world for several years now. In 2016, they did a mapping of the high nitrate groundwater basins in the Central Valley. There were several identified in the Central Valley. In about 2017, 2018, we saw the first cease and desist letters that were issued to large growers in Salinas Valley and the Tulare Lake Basin. And it basically went after large growers and asked them to provide clean drinking water and clean up the basins exclusively. It was put entirely on irrigated agriculture, which is not entirely fair. And so CV Salts and other organizations came together and created the nitrate control program to kind of spread those costs out so that the entire cost of clean drinking water was not borne by agriculture. And so in about 2018, 2019, the nitrate control program was accepted by the water board. And in May of 2020, we received our first notices to comply. The first 3 basins in East San Joaquin were Modesto, Turlock, and Chowchilla. And in December 2003, we also received notices to comply from Madera and Merced. So a little bit about who participates in this program. It's anybody who has a discharge permit with the water board. So it is irrigated agriculture, it's dairy and confined animal operations, poultry facilities, cities, municipalities, food processors, wineries, other dischargers, compost. Anybody who's maintaining that waste discharge permit with the water board has to participate in this program, and they share the cost of the program. So that's a win for irrigated agriculture. Irrigated agriculture, growers, obviously, you belong to the Water Coalition. Water Coalition and growers have to comply with the nitrate control program. We belong to these other organizations like Valley Water Collaborative and Chowchilla Management Zone, and they take care of this requirement on our behalf. So these fees that are coming in, they come in from these other organizations. They go to our growers that are falling in those basins, and they go back to these other organizations for the compliance piece. So who's the Valley Water Collaborative? They're a nonprofit organization, and this is very similar for Chowchilla Management Zone as well, but they're a nonprofit organization, and they were formed to comply with this nitrate control program and provide that clean drinking water. They encompass about 7 different management zones for us. They cover Modesto, Turlock, Merced, and Madera, and then additionally Chowchilla Management Zone covers Chowchilla. What are they tasked with doing? And of course, that is the delivery of clean drinking water. So their big tasks that are being completed right now is domestic well sampling. So drinking water wells are being sampled. If they come in higher than the drinking water limit, then they offer bottled water delivery to those residents of those high drinking water wells. So priority 1 basins like Modesto and Turlock up here, we've been in the program since about 2020, 2021. So a lot of outreach, a lot of wells tested, there's a lot of bottled water service. The other portion that's happening right now is our general orders being opened up, and these requirements are being put into our governing documents. So these are, kind of high level. The coalition's got to participate in these programs. It's being written into our general order now. And the other thing that's beginning to happen is some long-term solutions. So think about regional fill stations or other ways that people could get clean drinking water besides simply getting bottled water delivery. So just some fun facts here from Valley Water Collaborative. Since the beginning, just about 1,500 wells have been sampled, 966 bottled water delivery. And another thing they've done very successfully to help lower costs is they participate in the Safer Drinking Water program with the state. And they sample for some additional constituents that you'll see up on the screen there: nitrate, uranium, 123 TCP, arsenic, some others. If they're sampling for these, the state pays for part of the sampling cost. And if one of these other constituents is found in the water, the state also helps pay for the drinking water replacement. So it's getting a little bit more coverage and some additional help with the cost of this drinking water program. That's the other line you will see on your invoice. Your invoice, again, is made up of those three: your East San Joaquin per acre dues, your flat rate, and your nitrate control program fee. So I just want to make sure everyone had a good idea what was happening with the nitrate control program. Additionally, some things that you'll want to look out for in the next year, but this is a big one, is your May acreage update form. So as you'll notice on your member dues, it's based on the year prior. So it's based on your reported acreage from 2025 for your 2026 invoice. So in May of every year, we send up the acreage update form. Make sure you review this. Make sure your contact information is good, your parcel information is good, your acreage, your crop listed is all good and updated, because this will be your billing basis for the upcoming year. So this goes out in May. It's due back in June. Make sure you update your update form every year. Your other requirement is the farm evaluation survey. This is due once every 5 years. So 2026 is a lucky 5-year requirement. You're going to go through, and this is all management practices about your farm: pesticide application practices, some information about the different kinds of wells on your property, and some information about sediment, erosion, discharge, stormwater draining from your property. Your irrigation and nitrogen management plan summary report, if you get a paper version, it's a 3-page document with a green ribbon on the top. Otherwise, if you're completing it online, it's a series of questions. This is all about your irrigation use, your nitrogen use. The main pieces of information you're going to need are your total amount of N applied from the different sources, your yield per acre, and then it's going to ask you some questions like your irrigation type and some of your different nitrogen practices. We can help you do all of your reports over the phone. So if you need help, make sure you have these pieces of information when you call us, and we can help you do this over the phone. Next is that irrigation and nitrogen management plan worksheet. This requirement stays on the farm. So when you are thinking about what's going to happen in 2026 in your crop, your fertility plan, how many units of nitrogen you're going to apply, when you meet with your PCA, you'll want to walk through this form, complete what you think is going to happen in the next year, fill it in, have it signed, put it in your drawer, and this one stays on farm. It does not need to get turned into us. At the end of the year, you'll go ahead and fill in all of your actuals. And then we come to the management practice implementation report. So there's 2 different versions of this. If you are near a waterway, and this is creek, stream, canal, different water sources that are leading into one of our sampling points, you may have been designated to complete one of these surface water extra surveys. You would have just gotten a packet in the mail. We're doing a couple watershed meetings in the upcoming weeks, and we're talking about your use of pyrethroids and your spray practices that may impact water quality. So if you get one of these, it's not a huge deal, but we're going to come out. We're just meeting with our growers, talking about some of the issues that we're having with pyrethroids, knowing that growers are problem solvers. So when we come to our growers with a problem, everyone works pretty hard to get those fixed. So if you need one of these, you'll find it in your packet. You would have received an additional packet. We can help you complete this requirement pretty easily. Your other piece of your packet that's really important to review is your nitrogen evaluation information. And this is the very end of your physical packet. It's the very end if you go online and pull your packet. The very last pages of this, they take your data that you've reported to us and they compare you with other growers in a similar area that are growing the same crop. And you'll see the bell curve. The easiest way to identify if you're an outlier is to look for a red dot instead of a green dot. If you do have a red dot and you have been designated as an outlier, somebody who's applying more nitrogen than those around them, you'll have an extra survey and an extra meeting that you'll be required to attend. Those are all available online. And the survey's available in your packet. We can help you fill that out. But this is a great section to review with your PCA, just making sure that your nitrogen numbers look good and in check and very similar to those around you, and there hasn't been any errors that occur. This is what that management practice implementation report looks like. It's a series of checkbox questions talking about your management plans on your farm. And the member meetings for the outlier are all crop specific. It's a lot of nitrogen and irrigation information, and these are available online, so you can go check those out at any point. If you need any help accessing those, you can give us a call and we can help set up a meeting in our office for you to come in to watch one of these videos. We get a ton of questions on this. So if you are self-certified to sign off on your own irrigation and nitrogen management plan worksheet, you might need continuing education hours, or you're looking to become self-certified. If you're looking to become self-certified, you'll go to the top link. You can take pictures of these. We can also email these out, and these are located on our website. But if you'd like to become self-certified, you'll go to the top link. This is a self-study course. You do it at your own pace. It's available anytime online. Additionally, if you are already self-certified, you'll want to complete continuing education, and it's 1 hour a year or 3 hours over 3 years. Again, there's a whole bunch of these that are happening in person and online, and the link to the library of available online and the in-person meetings are on the second link there at the bottom, and you can get caught up on any continuing education you need. Email us if you're having any problems or give us a call. I can get you to the right person at CDFA to let you know if you need additional hours, if you're self-certified. If you have any questions on this, please give us a call. And the last part of your packet that you'll find is a sediment and erosion control plan. And if you've been designated as needing a sediment and erosion control plan, it's probably been a requirement for you for a long time. Likely you've already completed it. But if you're interested in becoming self-certified, go to our website. You'll see the little link under the sediment and erosion control plan tab. We could put on a self-certification course if we have growers interested in becoming self-certified. But the nice thing about the sediment and erosion control plan is it's kind of a one and done plan. Once you've completed it for your farm, it stays on file. If you have some massive changes on your farm, you should probably update your sediment and erosion control plan. But as long as things are the same as they've been on your farm, this plan is kind of a one and done and stays on file. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen to talk about our surface water and groundwater program and some of our updates that are happening there. Is there any questions? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jen.
My name is Jennifer. I'm with MLJ. I'm your technical consultant, and I'm here to give you your technical update on surface water and groundwater. Start out going over the groundwater program. The Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program has 4 components. Water. The first is the Groundwater Assessment Report. That's your GAR, a report that's required every 5 years. 2026 is a lucky year, so this is also the year for the 5-year report. Then moving on to our GQ program, that's our groundwater quality trend management program. This is where we monitor wells every year looking for nitrate results. We have our INMPs. Those are the summary reports that you have to fill out and submit. Those are due March 1st. And then we have our groundwater quality management plan. This is kind of our overarching plan of how we're addressing groundwater quality in the coalition. So I'm really going to focus on groundwater quality trend management. So like I said, the purpose of this program is really looking at trends in nitrate at a regional scale over a long-term period of time. So we are looking at the impact of irrigation practices and what's that doing with the groundwater quality. Again, the emphasis is regional scale over a long period of time. To do this, we have a monitoring well network. We monitor 38 wells. 12 of those are observational wells. They're just monitoring wells. 6 of those are. So we do this annually, right? Every year we go out, we monitor each of these wells for nitrate, and then every 5 years monitor for additional parameters like salts. This is a map of your groundwater well network. Each one of these dots represents a different well that we monitor at each year. You can see we have pretty good coverage across the ESJ region. These are your nitrate results recently. So any of the dots that are red or purple are above the safe drinking water limit for nitrate, which is 10 milligrams per liter of nitrate as in. So the bigger the dot, the red or purple dots, those are above that threshold. So you kind of see we do have quite a few wells in our network that are above what is considered safe for drinking. Zooming in a little bit to the wells around this area, again, you can see we do have quite a few that are above that threshold for what is considered safe for drinking. So in order to also help fulfill these groundwater quality trend monitoring requirements, the coalition is joined up with 9 other coalitions to create Central Valley Groundwater Monitoring. This is an organization of 10 different coalitions, and the goal is to share data and to share resources so we can be more efficient and more cost effective. So instead of having just that well network of 38 wells, with the group together, we now have 279 wells that we have data for. Additionally, streamline our reporting requirements. So I mentioned we have that 5-year report that's due this year. Well, all 10 of these coalitions get together, pool their data, share their resources, and we just write one report together. So rather than writing 10 different individual reports, we just write one report and everyone gets to mark it off as compliant. This also helps build in with some of those CV salt requirements that Katie was mentioning. Once again, here's a map of all of the different coalitions that participate in the Central Valley Regional Monitoring Collaborative. So you can see we're covering a large area of the Central Valley, which is really important because, again, the goal of this program is looking at regional trends over time. Moving on to surface water. Our surface water monitoring program, we are required to monitor every month. We have divided the coalition up into 6 different zones based on specific characteristics of those areas. Within those zones, we have a core site. The core site is the site that we monitor at every month, and we are required to monitor at for all of the constituents. We also have what we call represented sites. Represented sites are sites that we visit only when we have known water quality issues in an area. So what are we looking at when we're going out and doing our monthly monitoring? We are collecting field parameters, so pH, dissolved oxygen, electrical conductivity. We are looking at nutrients, nitrate, ammonia, phosphorus. We're looking for total dissolved solids, total suspended solids, total organic carbon, E. coli, and we're looking for pesticides. How we determine what pesticides we are monitoring for is based on pesticide use reports. So we look back at the last 3 years of pesticide use report information, and that gives us an idea of what we could expect to see in a region at a certain time of year. This is really helpful for us because it makes it so that we can pinpoint our monitoring and we don't have to just monitor for a wide swath of pesticides that we're not actually expecting to see in an area at a given time. And then finally, we do toxicity monitoring. So we want to see how all of these things are impacting the water quality and the things that live in that water. So we look at the impacts on things like algae and water fleas to see how they're faring in our waterways. So here again is our map of our coalition. Each of these colors represents a different zone. We have 6 zones. And then each of these dots, there's purple ones and green ones represent your core and your represented sites. And then looking at the sites around this area, Modesto is really represented by zones 1 and 2. And so you can see again, here are some of the sites that we're monitoring at in the area. So what kind of pesticides are we seeing, right? We're things we find in the water, different insecticides, fungicides, herbicides, some of the, maybe more common ones like Roundup and Gold, Prowl, Bravo Weather, Oberon, things that we find in our waterways. And then, as Katie mentioned earlier, kind of the main storyline is pyrethroids. So we have 6 pyrethroids that we're required to monitor. Those are the names on your left-hand side. It's the cypermethrin, and then on the right side you can see some of the common product names that use those active ingredients. This is really important, and I'm going to give you a minute to kind of look over this list and then we'll dive into it. So why do we have such a focus on pyrethroids? Well, part of this came from a change to state requirements in 2019, where they now require us to monitor for each of these 6 pyrethroids. Pyrethroids are a little unique in the sense that, one, we can measure them at really, really low quantities. So the laboratories are able to detect these at very, very, very small amounts. And secondly, most of the things that we measure, we measure them, we get the result, and then we compare that to a water quality trigger limit, which is what the state has defined as a safe level for that item to be in the water. For pyrethroids, what we do is an additive effect. We have to add all 6 of them together, and then that gets compared to a water quality trigger limit. So the two things of having these like low level detections and the fact that we have to add the impacts together, make it so that we have exceedances. So when we have an exceedance of the water quality trigger limit, when we have more than one of those in a 3-year period of time, we start a management. For you, a management plan looks like if you are in the area that's being targeted, it might mean that you have to attend an additional meeting or have a one-on-one at your farm, and you'll have that MPIR survey that you might have to fill out. What that means for us on the ground is that we have to do more monitoring. We're now required to expand the number of sites that we're monitoring at, and we have to monitor more frequently for pyrethroids. So this has been leading to increased costs in our surface water monitoring program because we are detecting more, we're having more and more exceedances of pyrethroids, which is leading to more monitoring, which is leading to greater cost. So kind of to give you an idea of what that's looked like. So I mentioned these requirements started in 2019. By the end of our first year of monitoring, we had 11 pyrethroid exceedances across 9 different sites, which led to 5 management plans. And now if you fast forward to the past year, we have, I think it's 39 pyrethroid exceedances across 13 sites. It's a huge jump over the course of just 5 or 6 years. So another way to look at that is the green bars are the number of sites that are in a management plan, and the blue bars are the number of sites that we have to monitor at for pyrethroids each year. You can see the green bars each year over time, and now we are at 23 sites. 23 sites are in management plans for pyrethroids. However, you can see there's a little more inconsistency with the blue bars, the number of sites that we have to monitor. And there's a big drop. The reasoning for that big drop is we were able to work with the regional board and get a little bit of an extension on when we had to start monitoring at these sites that were now on management plans. The exceedances were hitting quickly, and it was really building up. And so we were able to make an argument with the water board that it was too much of a burden for the coalition to monitor at all of these sites right away. So we were able to come up to an agreement to phase the sites in for monitoring more slowly over time to, again, try to help alleviate some of the burden of those costs. What that means, though, is that each year we have to add at least 3 more sites back into our monitoring rotation. So again, you'll see the number of sites is ticking up again each year. And here's a map of exceedances across. The bigger the dot, the higher the concentration we found. And looking a little more closely to the Modesto area, you can see in the region we had some pretty high exceedances in the last year. How are pyrethroids getting into the waterways? The biggest culprit is most likely spray drift. There's also the possibility of surface water runoff, but it's really probably mostly spray. There's some general management practices that everyone can focus on. Making sure that you're checking the weather, being aware, especially on days when it's windy or if there's upcoming rain. Again, information you're probably aware of, but I think one thing to remember is
if you're along a waterway, please be aware of when you're applying pyrethroids, what the weather conditions are. We really want to minimize pyrethroids getting into the waterways. And things to remember is these are really small quantities, and a lot of these exceedances are just barely over that threshold. So small changes that have a big impact in the water quality and could lead to us getting out of some of these management plans and reducing costs.